6 months. It's been 6 months.
6 months of lies?
While I was downstairs fixing cars and you were... Tom, Michael understands me in ways you never did.
I was under my rusted Ford pickup, wrestling with a stubborn oil pan bolt, when my entire world cracked open like a dropped beer bottle. The wrench slipped, skinning my knuckles raw against the exhaust pipe, and that's when I heard it through the open kitchen window above me. My wife Erin's voice, sharp as broken glass, cutting through the humid August air. "I can't keep pretending anymore, Liz." I'm in love with Michael. My 17-year-old daughter's response hit harder than the wrench to my hand. "Mom, Dad's a complete joke. You should just leave him for your boss already. At least Michael has money and drives a BMW instead of that piece of garbage truck." I lay there on the cracked driveway, motor oil dripping onto my forehead, staring up at the rust-eaten undercarriage of my Ford. That's when I realized my marriage was worth less than my socket set, and that rusty collection of tools had been with me longer and caused me fewer headaches. 23 years. 23 years of marriage, and this is how I find out my wife's been playing house with her boss. Not through a tearful confession or even a heated argument. No, I get to learn about it while bleeding motor oil, listening to my own daughter call me worthless. The town of Millfield, New York, isn't a place where dreams are born. It's where they quietly wither away in empty malls and shuttered plants. I'd worked my way up from nothing, started as a mechanic's apprentice right out of high school, put myself through night school for computer repair, and eventually landed a decent IT support job at the local hospital. Nothing glamorous, but honest work that paid the bills and kept food on the table. Erin, on the other hand, had climbed the corporate ladder at Pinnacle Insurance like she was running from a fire. Vice president of claims, corner office, company car, expense account, the whole package. Somewhere along the way, she'd started looking at me like I was a stain on her designer blouses. I rolled out from under the truck and sat up, wiping grease off my hands with an old rag. Through the kitchen window, I could see Erin pacing back and forth, her phone pressed to her ear. She was wearing that red dress, the one I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. The one she claimed was too fancy for dinner at Romano's Italian place. Apparently it wasn't too fancy for Michael. The signs had been there for months. Late nights at the office, weekend team building sessions, new gym membership, and suddenly caring about organic everything. The way she'd started holding her phone like it contained state secrets, angling it away from me whenever a text came in. I'd been an idiot. A blind, trusting idiot who thought 23 years of marriage meant something. My hands were shaking as I gathered my tools. Not from anger, not yet. From something deeper. Something that felt like the ground shifting beneath my feet. I'd always known Erin was out of my league. She was smart, ambitious, beautiful. I was just the guy who fixed computers and changed oil filters. But I'd thought that was enough. I'd thought love was enough. Shows what I know about anything. I walked around to the front of the house, where our mailbox stood crooked from last winter's snowplow incident. The mail was mostly junk, but there at the bottom was our cell phone bill. I don't usually open it. Erin handles all the finances, but something made me tear it open right there on the sidewalk. 738 text messages to one number last month. The same number that had been calling the house and hanging up when I answered. Michael's number, I realized. 738 messages between my wife and her boss. I flipped through the pages, my vision tunneling as I saw the pattern. Late-night calls that lasted hours, text message timestamps showing conversations at 2, 3 in the morning, all while I was sleeping in our bed, thinking she was downstairs working on quarterly reports. The hotel charges on our credit card suddenly made sense too. The Marriott downtown, charged to our account but listed as business expenses. Room 412, multiple nights over the past 3 months. While I was home watching Netflix and wondering why my wife seemed so distant. Mrs. Delaney, our 70-something neighbor, was watering her petunias and pretending not to watch me have what probably looked like a nervous breakdown on my front lawn. She'd lived next door for 15 years and had the supernatural ability to know everyone's business before they knew it themselves. "Everything all right, Tom?" she called over, her voice carrying that particular tone older women use when they already know everything is definitely not all right. "Just peachy, Mrs. D," I replied, folding the phone bill and shoving it into my back pocket. "Just figuring out how much my life costs per minute." She gave me a look that said she understood more than I was saying, then went back to her flowers. Mrs. Delaney had been divorced twice and widowed once. If anyone knew the signs of a marriage falling apart, it was her. I walked back into the house, my work boots heavy on the hardwood floors Erin had insisted we install 2 years ago. "They're an investment, Tom. They add value to the house." Everything was always about adding value with Erin. Everything except our marriage, apparently. Liz was sprawled across the living room couch, scrolling through TikTok with the focused intensity of a surgeon. At 17, she'd perfected the art of being physically present but emotionally checked out. She looked up at me with barely concealed disdain, an expression she'd inherited directly from her mother. "Dad, you're tracking grease through the house," she said without looking up from her phone. "Mom's going to freak out." "Where is your mother?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Upstairs getting ready. She has another late meeting tonight." Liz rolled her eyes. She's been having a lot of late meetings lately. So my daughter knew too. Of course she did. Teenagers aren't stupid, just self-absorbed. She'd probably known about the affair longer than I had, but hadn't bothered mentioning it because it didn't directly affect her social media presence. I climbed the stairs to our bedroom, each step feeling like I was walking toward my own execution. The door was closed, but I could hear Erin moving around inside, drawers opening and closing, the sound of her blow-dryer running. I knocked on my own bedroom door. Let that sink in for a moment. I knocked on the door to the bedroom I'd shared with my wife for over 2 decades. "Tom, I'm getting ready. Can this wait?" Her voice was muffled but carried that edge of irritation I'd become so familiar with. "We need to talk, Erin." Silence. Then the blow-dryer stopped. "I'm running late for my meeting. Can we do this tomorrow?" "Your meeting." "Right, with Michael. In room 412 at the Marriott, if the pattern held." I opened the door. Erin stood in front of our full-length mirror, applying lipstick with the precision of a sniper. She was wearing the red dress, the one that hugged her curves in all the right places and made her look 10 years younger. Her dark hair was perfectly styled, and she smelled like that expensive perfume she'd started wearing, the one that cost more than I made in a day. She looked beautiful. She looked radiant. She looked like a woman in love, just not with me. "You look nice," I said, closing the door behind me. "Special meeting tonight?" Her hand paused for just a fraction of a second before she continued with her lipstick. "Just dinner with some clients. Nothing exciting." I pulled the phone bill from my pocket and set it on our dresser. 738 text messages to the same number last month. That's a lot of client communication. The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. Erin had always been good under pressure. It's what made her successful in insurance. She dealt with people's disasters for a living, staying calm while their worlds fell apart. "Tom, you're being paranoid. Michael is my boss. We work together. Of course we communicate frequently. Michael." She'd said his name without me mentioning it. "At 2 in the morning? 3 in the morning? What kind of insurance emergencies happen at 3 a.m., Erin?" She turned to face me fully, and for a moment I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe, or just annoyance at being caught. "You went through our phone records?" "They came in the mail." I opened our mail. Crazy concept, I know. We stood there staring at each other across the bedroom we'd shared for so many years. The same room where we'd brought Liz home from the hospital as a baby, where we'd made love, fought, made up, dreamed about the future. Now it felt like a crime scene. "Tom, I don't know what you think you know, but I know about the hotel rooms. The Marriott downtown, room 412. 3 times last month charged to our credit card as business expenses. Her composure cracked. Just a little, but enough. How long, Erin? How long have you been sleeping with your boss? She sat down heavily on the edge of our bed, her perfect posture finally sagging. For a moment, she looked like the woman I'd married 23 years ago, vulnerable, human, real. Then she straightened up and her face went cold. 6 months, she said quietly. It's been 6 months. 6 months. Half a year of lies, of fake smiles across the breakfast table, of her coming home late and claiming exhaustion while I rubbed her shoulders and asked about her day. Are you going to leave him? I asked. She looked at me like I'd asked her to explain quantum physics. Leave Michael? Tom, he's married. He has kids. He's not leaving his wife. I meant me, Erin. Are you going to leave me? She was quiet for a long moment, staring down at her hands. When she looked up, her eyes were harder than I'd ever seen them. I don't know, maybe. Tom, you have to understand. Michael and we connect on a level that you and I never have. He understands my ambitions, my goals. He sees my potential. And I don't. You're a good man, Tom. You really are. But you're content with fixing computers and changing oil in that rusty truck. You don't want more from life. You don't push yourself or challenge yourself. You're just comfortable with being ordinary. Ordinary. The word hit me like a physical blow. I worked 2 jobs to put you through business school, Erin. I supported your career even when it meant eating dinner alone most nights. I've been proud of everything you've accomplished. I know, and I'm grateful for that. But gratitude isn't love, Tom, and being supportive isn't the same as being inspiring. She stood up and smoothed down her dress. I have to go. Michael is waiting. Don't. The word came out harder than I intended. Don't go to him tonight. Tom, I'm asking you, as your husband, don't go. She looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something that might have been regret cross her face. Then she picked up her purse and car keys. I'm sorry, Tom. I really am. But I can't keep pretending anymore. She walked past me toward the door, then stopped. For what it's worth, I never meant for it to happen this way. I never meant to hurt you. But you did it anyway. Yes, I did it anyway. After she left, I sat on our bed for a long time, staring at the phone bill in my hands. 738 messages, 6 months of lies, 23 years of marriage reduced to a line item on a cellular bill. I could hear Liz downstairs talking loudly on her own phone to one of her friends. Yeah, they're fighting again. Dad found out about Mom's thing with her boss. It's so embarrassing. I can't wait to graduate and get out of this house. My thing with her boss, like it was a hobby instead of adultery. I walked downstairs and found Liz exactly where I'd left her, sprawled on the couch with her phone. Your mother and I are having some problems, I said. She didn't look up. Yeah, I figured. Are you getting divorced? The casual way she asked the question, like she was asking about the weather, knocked the wind out of me. I don't know, honey. Maybe. Can I live with Mom? Her apartment will probably be nicer, and she makes more money anyway. Her apartment. Like Erin had already moved out in Liz's mind. She doesn't have an apartment, Liz. She lives here, with us. This is her home. Liz finally looked up from her phone, and her expression was pure teenage disdain. Dad, come on. Mom's obviously going to leave you for Michael. He's rich, he's successful, and he doesn't spend his weekends under a broken truck. No offense, but if I were Mom, I'd have left years ago. No offense. As if that made it hurt less. I went out to the garage and sat in my truck, even though it smelled like motor oil and the passenger seat had a spring poking through the vinyl. It was mine, at least, paid for, reliable, honest. More than I could say for anything else in my life at that moment. My phone buzzed with a text message. For a crazy second, I thought it might be Erin, saying she'd changed her mind, that she was coming home. It was from my buddy Dave, who worked security at the hospital with me. Poker game tomorrow night at Frank's. You in? I stared at the message for a long time. Tomorrow night, Erin would probably be at another late meeting. Liz would be upstairs, live streaming her contempt for her ordinary father to her TikTok followers. I'd be sitting alone in my house, wondering how I'd become such a failure at the one thing that was supposed to matter most. I typed back, "Yeah, I'm in." Then I deleted the message and typed something else. Rain check. Got some things to figure out. I had some thinking to do, some planning. Because if my wife thought she could just walk away from 23 years of marriage for her boss's BMW and corner office, she was about to learn something about the ordinary guy she'd been taking for granted. I might fix computers for a living, but I was about to show everyone exactly how creative I could get when properly motivated. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago, staring at our laptop screen. Erin had left it open when she rushed out to her meeting, and she'd forgotten to log out of her email. I'm not proud of what I did next, but desperate times and all that. Her inbox was a treasure trove of evidence, emails to Michael that started professional and gradually became personal, then intimate, then downright explicit. Messages about weekend getaways disguised as business trips, plans for conference calls that were really lunch dates at expensive restaurants I'd never been able to afford. But the most damning evidence wasn't the love letters or the hotel reservations. It was an email thread between Erin and her friend Pam from HR dated 3 weeks ago. "Pam, I need advice. If someone in management is having a relationship with a subordinate, what's the company policy?" Pam's response was immediate. "Erin, please tell me you're not talking about yourself and Michael. The company has a strict no fraternization policy between supervisors and direct reports. Both parties would be terminated immediately if discovered. Why are you asking?" Erin's reply, "Just curious about a hypothetical situation." "Thanks for the info." Hypothetical. Right. I printed out the entire email chain along with the most incriminating text messages from our phone bill. Then I did something that would have made my old self sick to his stomach. I forwarded several of Erin's emails to my own account before deleting them from her sent folder. By 6 a.m., I had a plan. Erin came home at 7:30, looking disheveled and guilty. Her perfect hair was messed up, her lipstick was gone, and she was carrying her shoes instead of wearing them. She tried to sneak upstairs, but I was waiting in the kitchen with fresh coffee and what probably looked like the world's most understanding smile. "How was your meeting?" I asked pleasantly. She froze halfway up the stairs. "It was productive. We covered a lot of ground." "I'm sure you did. Coffee's fresh if you want some." She came back down, suspicious but trying to act normal. "You're up early." "Couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about our conversation last night." She poured herself coffee with shaking hands. "Tom, about last night. I want to apologize," I said. "I was jealous and paranoid. You're right that you and Michael work closely together." I shouldn't have jumped to conclusions. The relief on her face was almost comical. Oh, Tom, thank you. I was so worried you'd make a scene? 'Cause problems at your work? Erin, I would never do anything to jeopardize your career. You know that, right?" She actually smiled at me then, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in months. "I do know that. That's one of the things I've always loved about you. You're so supportive." Loved. Past tense. But I kept smiling. "I'm going to take a shower and get ready for work," she said. "We should talk more tonight. Really talk." "Absolutely. I'll cook dinner. Like old times." After she left for work, I called in sick to the hospital and drove across town to Pinnacle Insurance. I'd only been there a handful of times over the years, company Christmas parties, the occasional spouse event, but I knew the layout well enough. The building was all glass and steel, designed to project success and stability. Michael's BMW was parked in the executive lot, right next to Erin's Honda. Seeing them side by side made my stomach clench, but I pushed the feeling down. I had work to do. I walked into the lobby like I belonged there, nodding to the security guard who recognized me from Christmas parties past. "Morning, Tom. Here to see Erin? Actually, I'm looking for Pam Richardson in HR. Is she in yet?" "Sure is. 3rd floor, suite 310. Should I call up?" "No need. It's a surprise." Pam Richardson was a heavy-set woman in her 50s who'd worked at Pinnacle for over 20 years. She'd always been friendly to me at company events, and she had a reputation for being both gossipy and absolutely ruthless when it came to enforcing company policy. Perfect for my purposes. I knocked on her office door, and her face lit up when she saw me. "Tom, what a nice surprise. What brings you by?" I closed the door behind me and sat down across from her desk. "Pam, I need to ask you something, and I need you to keep it confidential." Her eyes gleamed with interest. Pam lived for office drama. "Of course. What's going on?" "If you knew that a supervisor was having an inappropriate relationship with someone they managed, what would you do?" Her expression immediately became serious. "Tom, are we talking about a hypothetical situation here?" "No, we're not." I pulled out the printed emails and phone records and set them on her desk. "I found these on our home computer and phone bill. I think my wife is having an affair with her boss." Pam's eyes widened as she scanned the documents. Her face went through a series of expressions: shock, disgust, and then something that looked almost like excitement. "Tom, this is very serious. Michael is Erin's direct supervisor. This violates about 6 different company policies. What happens now?" "I have to report this immediately. Both of them will be suspended pending investigation. If the allegations are substantiated, and based on what you've shown me, they will be, both Michael and Erin will be terminated." "Terminated?" "Fired, Tom. Immediately. With cause, which means no severance package and no positive references." I felt a moment of doubt. Erin might be cheating on me, but she'd worked hard to build her career. Was I really going to destroy it out of spite? Then I remembered her words from the night before. "You're just comfortable with being ordinary." How long will the investigation take? With evidence this clear? A few days at most. "Tom, I have to ask, are you sure you want to do this? Once I file this report, there's no going back." I thought about Erin in her red dress, walking out on 23 years of marriage for a man who would never leave his wife. I thought about my daughter's casual cruelty, her assumption that I was disposable. I thought about all the nights I'd eaten dinner alone while my wife was working late. "I'm sure," Pam nodded grimly. "I'll need you to sign a formal complaint." "And Tom? I'm sorry, I know this can't be easy." "It's not, but it's necessary." I spent the next hour filling out paperwork and giving a formal statement. Pam assured me that the investigation would be discreet and professional, but that both Michael and Erin would be called in for questioning by the end of the day. As I was leaving, she touched my arm gently. "Tom, for what it's worth, I always thought Erin was lucky to have you. You deserved better than this." I drove home feeling hollow but determined. The first domino had been pushed. Now I just had to wait for the rest to fall. Erin came home that evening looking like she'd been hit by a truck. Her face was pale, her hands were shaking, and she could barely meet my eyes. "Tom, we need to talk." "Of course." I made dinner. Spaghetti and meatballs, your favorite. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "You don't understand." "Something happened at work today, something bad." I set down my fork and gave her my full attention. "What kind of something?" "HR called me in for questioning. Someone filed a complaint about Michael and me." "A complaint about what?" "About our relationship." "Tom, someone knows about the affair." I let my face show just the right amount of shock and concern. "Who would do that?" "Who even knows?" I don't know, but they had emails, phone records, hotel receipts. They had everything, Tom. Everything. She started crying then, big ugly sobs that shook her whole body. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to hold her and tell her everything would be okay. But a bigger part of me felt nothing but cold satisfaction. What happens now? I asked. We're both suspended pending investigation. If they find us guilty of violating company policy, we'll be fired. Tom, I could lose everything. My job, my career, my reputation. 20 years of work gone. Maybe it won't come to that. Maybe you can explain. Explain what? That I've been cheating on my husband with my married boss for 6 months? That I've been using company resources to conduct an affair? Tom, I'm screwed. We're screwed. Even now, she was thinking about Michael. What does Michael say? Her face crumpled. He says we need to stop seeing each other until this blows over. He says his wife can't find out, that it would destroy his family. And what did you tell him? I told him I understood. What else could I say? So when push came to shove, Michael was throwing her under the bus to save his own skin. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Erin, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. She nodded, wiping her eyes with a tissue. Do you love him? Fresh tears started flowing. Yes. God help me. Yes, I do. More than you love me? She was quiet for a long time. I don't know if I love you anymore, Tom. I care about you. I respect you. But I'm not in love with you. I haven't been for a long time. At least she was being honest now. Then maybe this is for the best, I said quietly. She looked up at me with surprise. What do you mean? Maybe this is the universe's way of telling us both that it's time to move on. You can't build a future on a lie, Erin. And I can't keep pretending I don't know that you want something different than what we have. Tom, I never wanted it to happen this way. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did hurt me, and now you're paying the price for it. She stared at me across our kitchen table, and I could see the moment when she realized that I wasn't going to fight for her. That I wasn't going to beg her to stay or promise to change or try to win her back. So what happens now? She asked. Now you figure out what's more important to you, your marriage or your boss. And I figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. She went upstairs after that, and I could hear her on the phone, probably with Michael, probably crying. I cleaned up dinner and loaded the dishwasher, feeling strangely peaceful for the first time in months. Tomorrow, the real fun would begin. The next morning, Erin's phone started ringing at 6 a.m. She stumbled downstairs in her robe, looking like she hadn't slept, and answered it on the 4th ring. Hello? Oh, hi, Julia. What? How did you... No, I can't talk right now. Julia, Michael's wife. My stomach clenched with anticipation. Erin hung up and immediately dialed another number. Michael, your wife just called me. She knows. How does she know? I couldn't hear Michael's response, but I could see Erin's face go white. What do you mean someone sent her the emails? What emails? Michael, what aren't you telling me? More silence, then Erin sank into a kitchen chair like her legs had given out. You forwarded our personal emails to your work account? Are you insane? Michael, those emails... Oh, God, if Julia has those emails... I busied myself making coffee, trying to look like I wasn't listening to my wife's world collapse in real time. I don't care what your lawyer says. Julia has evidence of our affair, and she's threatening to send it to the school board. Michael, you could lose your position on the education committee, your reputation in the community. Ah. I hadn't known about Michael's involvement with the local school board. That was an interesting development. Erin hung up and buried her face in her hands. Tom, this is getting worse. Michael's wife found out about us, and she's threatening to go public. How did she find out? Someone sent her copies of our emails. Personal emails, Tom. Very personal. I handed her a cup of coffee, making sure my face showed appropriate concern. Who would do something like that? I don't know, but when I find out, I'm going to destroy them. The irony was almost too perfect to bear. Her phone rang again. This time it was Pam from HR. Erin, you need to come in today for a follow-up interview. And you should probably bring a lawyer. After Erin left for her meeting with HR, looking like she was walking to her own execution, I drove across town to Frankie's boxing gym. Frankie Morales had been my friend since high school, and his gym was where I went when I needed to think or work out my frustrations on something that couldn't fight back. The gym was a throwback to another era. Heavy bags hanging from chains, speed bags that rattled like machine guns, and the constant smell of sweat and leather. Frankie was in his usual spot behind the front desk, reading the sports section and drinking coffee from a mug that said "World's Okayest Coach." "Tommy boy," he called out when he saw me, "you look like hell. What's eating you?" I gave him the abbreviated version: wife cheating, marriage over, life in shambles. Frankie listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally and making sympathetic noises. "So what are you going to do about it?" he asked when I finished. "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you going to roll over and let her walk all over you, or are you going to fight back?" "I'm not going to do anything crazy, if that's what you're asking." Crazy? Who said anything about crazy? I'm talking about smart, strategic, making sure that if your marriage is over, you don't get completely screwed in the process. He had a point. Erin made twice what I did, but we'd built our life together. The house, the savings accounts, the retirement funds. I was entitled to half of everything, wasn't I? "You need to talk to a lawyer," Frankie continued. "Today. Before she has a chance to hide assets or clean out bank accounts." Erin wouldn't do that. Frankie gave me a look that said I was being naive. "Tommy, your wife has been lying to your face for 6 months. She's been using your credit cards to pay for hotel rooms where she screws her boss. You think she's going to play fair in a divorce?" He was right, and I knew it. "I know a guy," Frankie said. "Divorce lawyer, real shark. Helped my cousin when his wife tried to take him for everything. You want his number?" An hour later, I was sitting in the office of Richard Stone, attorney at law. Stone was exactly what you'd expect from a divorce lawyer: expensive suit, cold eyes, and a handshake that felt like a business transaction. "Mr. Patterson, I've reviewed the documents you provided, and I have to say, you're in a strong position. Your wife's adultery, combined with her use of marital assets to fund the affair, gives us significant leverage. I don't want to destroy her. I just want what's fair." Stone smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Mr. Patterson, in my experience, fair is a luxury you can't afford when your spouse has already decided to play dirty. Your wife violated the sanctity of your marriage and used your money to do it. She's forfeited any right to your consideration." He was right, but it still felt wrong somehow. "What do you recommend?" "First, we file for divorce immediately, citing adultery and abandonment. Second, we request a temporary restraining order preventing her from accessing joint accounts or disposing of marital assets. Third, we demand full disclosure of all her financial accounts, including any she may have opened without your knowledge. Can we do all that?" "Mr. Patterson, by the time I'm done, your wife will be lucky to keep her car. The adultery alone is grounds for an unequal distribution of assets in your favor. Add in the misuse of marital funds, and we're looking at a very favorable settlement." I signed the retainer agreement and wrote a check that made my stomach hurt. But as I walked out of Stone's office, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: hope. When I got home, Erin was sitting at the kitchen table, staring at a termination letter from Pinnacle Insurance. "They fired me," she said without looking up. "Effective immediately. 20 years with the company, and they fired me." "I'm sorry." "Are you? Are you really sorry, Tom?" There was something in her voice that made me look at her more carefully. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was something else there: suspicion. "Of course I'm sorry." I never wanted you to lose your job. Michael thinks someone set us up. Someone who knew about our relationship and wanted to destroy us. Who would do that? I don't know. But whoever it was, they had access to very personal information. Phone records, emails, hotel receipts. The kind of information that only someone close to us would have. She was looking directly at me now, and I could see the wheels turning in her head. Tom, I need to ask you something, and I need you to tell me the truth. Okay. Did you report Michael and me to HR? I looked her straight in the eye and lied without hesitation. No, Erin. I would never do something like that. She stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I believe you. You're not vindictive enough to destroy someone's career, even if they hurt you. If she only knew. What are you going to do now? I asked. I don't know. Michael says we need to lay low until things calm down. His wife is threatening to divorce him if he doesn't cut all contact with me. And are you going to? Cut contact? I don't have a choice. He won't take my calls, and his secretary has been instructed not to put me through. So Michael had abandoned her completely. The man she'd destroyed her marriage for had thrown her away the moment things got complicated. I'm sorry, Erin. I really am. I know you are. That's what makes this so much harder. She went upstairs after that, and I could hear her crying through the bedroom door. Part of me wanted to go to her, to comfort her the way I had for 23 years. But a bigger part of me remembered her words. You're just comfortable with being ordinary. Let her cry. Let her face the consequences of her choices. I had my own future to think about now. The next morning, I had Erin served with divorce papers while she was having coffee at the kitchen table. The process server was a small, nervous man who clearly hated his job, but he was professional and efficient. Erin Patterson? You've been served. She took the papers with shaking hands, her face going white as she read the first page. Tom, what is this? It's a divorce petition and a restraining order preventing you from accessing our joint accounts. You froze our bank accounts? I protected our assets while we work out a fair division of property. Fair? Tom, I can't access any money. I can't pay bills, I can't buy groceries, I can't even put gas in my car. You should have thought about that before you spent our money on hotel rooms with your boss. She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. Who are you? This isn't like you, Tom. You don't do things like this. You're right. The old Tom wouldn't have done this. The old Tom would have begged you to stay, promised to change, tried to win you back. But the old Tom was married to someone who loved him. You made it very clear that person doesn't exist anymore. So you're going to destroy me? Is that your plan? I'm going to protect myself. There's a difference. She stood up abruptly, the divorce papers scattering across the floor. I need to call my lawyer. Good luck affording one. That night, Liz came home from school with news that made my blood run cold. Dad, everyone at school is talking about Mom and Mr. Brennan. Someone posted their emails on the school's Facebook page. Michael's last name was Brennan. I'd forgotten he was involved with the school board. What kind of emails? The sexy kind. It's so embarrassing. Everyone knows Mom was cheating on you with a married guy. Some of my friends are asking if you're okay. So the story had gone public. Michael's reputation in the community was probably destroyed, and by extension, so was Erin's. Are you okay, Dad? It was the first time in months that Liz had asked me that question with genuine concern. I'm getting there, honey. It's been a rough few days. Mom's been crying a lot, and she keeps trying to call Mr. Brennan, but he won't answer. I'm sorry you're caught in the middle of this, Liz. I know it's not fair to you. She shrugged with teenage stoicism. It's whatever. At least now I know why you guys have been so weird lately. That night, I lay in bed alone for the first time in over 20 years, listening to Erin pace the floors downstairs. She was probably trying to figure out how to rebuild her life from scratch. No job, no money, no boyfriend, and a divorce proceeding that was going to leave her with a lot less than she was used to. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt something that might have been peace. Tomorrow, I would start building my new life. Tonight, I was content to listen to the sound of consequences coming home to roost. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in Frankie's gym, working the heavy bag, when Dave from the hospital walked in with news that made me stop mid-punch. "Tommy, you're not going to believe this. Michael Brennan got arrested." I unwrapped my hands slowly, trying to keep my expression neutral. Arrested for what? Embezzlement. Turns out he's been skimming money from the insurance company for years. The FBI raided his house this morning. This was news to me. I'd set out to destroy his career, not uncover federal crimes. How much money are we talking about? $500,000, maybe more. Word is he was using company funds to pay for personal expenses. Hotels, restaurants, trips, the whole 9 yards, including the hotel rooms where he'd been meeting my wife. The irony was almost too perfect. What about his wife? Filing for divorce. She's claiming she had no idea about the money or the affairs. Plural, by the way. Turns out your wife wasn't his first rodeo. Affairs. Plural. So Erin hadn't been special after all, just the latest in a series of conquests. Where's Erin in all this? Dave's expression grew uncomfortable. That's the thing, Tommy. She might be in trouble too. If she knew about the embezzlement, if she benefited from it in any way, she could be charged as an accessory. My stomach dropped. I'd wanted revenge, not to see my wife go to prison. She didn't know, I said quickly. Erin's a lot of things, but she's not a criminal. I hope you're right, man. For Liz's sake, if nothing else. That evening, Erin came home looking like a ghost. She'd been staying at her sister's house since the divorce proceedings began, but she still had keys to pick up personal items. "Tom, we need to talk. I heard about Michael. I'm sorry." She laughed bitterly. Are you? Are you really sorry that the man I left you for turned out to be a criminal? I'm sorry that you got caught up in his mess. You didn't deserve that, didn't I? Tom, I've been thinking about everything that's happened, and I keep coming back to one question. How did it all fall apart so perfectly? There was that suspicious look again, sharper this time. What do you mean? I mean, someone reported us to HR with very specific evidence. Someone sent our emails to Michael's wife. Someone made sure the whole story went public. And now, conveniently, Michael's been arrested for crimes that make me look like either an accomplice or an idiot. She was connecting dots I'd hoped she wouldn't connect. Erin, you're being paranoid. Sometimes bad things just happen. Do they? Or sometimes good people get pushed too far and decide to push back. We stared at each other across the living room that had once been our shared space. I could see her putting the pieces together, and I knew my time as the innocent victim was coming to an end. You did it, didn't you? She said quietly. You destroyed us. I could have kept lying, should have kept lying. But I was tired of pretending to be someone I wasn't. Yes. The word hung between us like a live wire. You reported us to HR. You sent the emails to Julia. You made sure everyone in town knew about the affair. Yes. Why, Tom? Why would you do something so vindictive? Because you looked me in the eye and told me I was ordinary. Because you threw away 23 years of marriage for a man who was never going to leave his wife. Because you made me feel like I was worthless. So you decided to destroy my life? I decided to stop letting you destroy mine. She sat down heavily on the couch, all the fight going out of her. The FBI wants to interview me tomorrow. They think I might have known about Michael's embezzlement. Did you? No. God, Tom, what kind of person do you think I am? I think you're someone who was willing to risk everything for a man who turned out to be a criminal. I think you're someone who called her husband ordinary and expected him to just take it. I never meant. You meant every word, and now you're dealing with the consequences. She was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. What happens now? She asked finally. Now you tell the FBI the truth. You cooperate with their investigation. You hope that being Michael's victim instead of his accomplice is enough to keep you out of prison. And us? What happens to us? There is no us, Erin. You made that clear 6 months ago. She nodded slowly, tears starting to flow. I know. I never thought it would end like this. How did you think it would end? Did you think Michael was going to leave his wife and kids for you? Did you think you could just walk away from our marriage without consequences? I thought you'd fight for me. I thought you'd at least try to win me back. Why would I fight for someone who didn't want to be kept? She didn't have an answer for that. The next morning, Erin was arrested at her sister's house on charges of conspiracy and money laundering. The local news ran the story with her mugshot and a detailed account of her affair with Michael Brennan. My phone rang all day with reporters wanting comments, neighbors offering sympathy, and old friends checking to make sure I was okay. Liz took it harder than I expected. She came home from school in tears, having been subjected to a day of whispers and stares from classmates who'd seen the news. Dad, they're saying Mom might go to prison. Is that true? I don't know, honey. I hope not. This is all because of the affair, isn't it? If she hadn't cheated on you, none of this would have happened. Your mother made some bad choices, Liz. But she's not a criminal. The lawyers will sort it out. Are you going to help her? Pay for a lawyer or something? I'd been dreading this question. Honey, your mother and I are getting divorced. I can't pay for her legal defense. But she's my mom. And you said she's not a criminal. She's not. But she's also not my responsibility anymore. Liz stared at me with an expression I couldn't read. You really hate her, don't you? No, Liz. I don't hate your mother. But I don't love her anymore either. 3 days later, Erin was released on bail, thanks to her sister mortgaging her house. The terms of her release included surrendering her passport and checking in with a probation officer twice a week. She showed up at the house that evening, looking smaller and more fragile than I'd ever seen her. Tom, I need to ask you for something, and I know I have no right to ask. What? I need help paying for a lawyer. A good one. The public defender they assigned to me is fresh out of law school and has never handled a federal case. Erin, I know what you're going to say. I know I hurt you, and I know you don't owe me anything. But Tom, if I go to prison, what happens to Liz? She's 17. She needs at least one parent who isn't behind bars. It was emotional blackmail, and we both knew it, but it was also true. How much? $50,000 for a retainer. Maybe more if the case goes to trial. $50,000. Most of our savings. I'll think about it. Tom, the arraignment is next week. I need to have representation by then. I said I'll think about it. That night, I called Richard Stone, my divorce attorney, and asked for his advice. Mr. Patterson, helping your wife pay for her criminal defense would be the stupidest thing you could possibly do. You're in the middle of divorce proceedings. Every dollar you spend on her lawyer is a dollar less you'll have for your own future. But if she goes to prison, then she goes to prison. That's not your problem anymore. What about my daughter? Your daughter is 17 years old. In less than a year, she'll be legally an adult. Don't bankrupt yourself trying to save a woman who threw away your marriage for a criminal. He was right, and I knew it. But the next morning, I withdrew $50,000 from our savings account and drove to the office of Margaret Chen, one of the best criminal defense attorneys in the state. Mr. Patterson, I have to ask, why are you paying for your estranged wife's legal defense? Because despite everything she's done, she's still the mother of my child. And because I'm not vindictive enough to let her go to prison for something she didn't do. Chen studied me carefully. You realize this could bankrupt you? I realize a lot of things, but I also realize I have to be able to look at myself in the mirror. 2 months later, Margaret Chen worked a miracle. She negotiated a plea deal that kept Erin out of prison in exchange for full cooperation with the FBI's investigation into Michael Brennan and restitution for the money she'd unknowingly benefited from. Erin would serve 2 years of probation, perform 500 hours of community service, and pay back $15,000 in hotel and restaurant charges that had been paid for with embezzled funds. She'd also be banned from working in the insurance industry for 5 years. It was a slap on the wrist compared to what she could have faced. The day the plea deal was finalized, Erin came to the house one last time. "Tom, I don't know how to thank you. If you hadn't paid for Margaret Chen, you don't need to thank me. I didn't do it for you. I know. You did it for Liz. I did it because it was the right thing to do." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know you probably don't believe this, but I am sorry. For all of it. For the affair, for the things I said, for the way I treated you. You deserved so much better than what I gave you." "Yes, I did. Is there any chance at all, that we could try again? Start over?" I looked at this woman I'd been married to for 23 years, this woman I'd once loved more than my own life, and felt nothing but sadness for what we'd lost. "No, Erin. There's not." She nodded, like she'd expected that answer. "What happens now?" "Now you rebuild your life. Figure out who you are without Michael, without your job, without me, and I do the same thing. Are you going to be okay?" "I'm going to be better than okay. For the first time in years, I'm going to be happy." 6 months later, our divorce was finalized. Erin got the house. She needed somewhere stable to live during her probation, and I got most of the retirement accounts and investments. It wasn't the financial windfall Richard Stone had predicted, but it was fair. I bought a small house across town, nothing fancy but mine. Liz splits her time between us, and slowly, she started to respect me again. She's even stopped calling me ordinary. Michael Brennan was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. His wife took the kids and moved across the country to start over. The last I heard, Erin was working as a cashier at a grocery store and dating a mechanic who treats her well. As for me, I'm still fixing computers at the hospital, but I've also started teaching computer classes at the community college in the evenings. It's not glamorous work, but it's honest, and it's mine. Last week, I ran into Pam Richardson at the grocery store. She looked embarrassed when she saw me, like she wasn't sure how I'd react to seeing the woman who'd helped destroy my wife's career. "Tom, I hope you don't think I took any pleasure in what happened to Erin. I was just doing my job." "I know, Pam. You did the right thing. Still, it must have been hard watching your marriage fall apart so publicly." "It was. But you know what? I'm not ordinary anymore. Turns out, when you push an ordinary man far enough, he becomes something else entirely." She looked at me strangely, like she wasn't sure what I meant. I just smiled and walked away. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even. Sometimes it's becoming the person you were always capable of being once the people holding you back get out of the way. My name is Tom Patterson. I fix computers, I teach night classes, and I sleep peacefully every night knowing that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and that's anything but ordinary.